Welcome back. 22 minutes after the hour, a tense showdown unfolding in Washington as Democratic members of the House Oversight Committee protesting in response to reports that President Trump plans to shut down the Department of Education. They attempted to gain access to the department's offices and were denied.
A would-be king who thinks that he can dismantle the Department of Education without congressional concurrence.
Give it a tug there.
All access.
We're members of Congress. We're members of Congress.
We're coming in. Don't lock the door. We're coming in. Who are you?
You're not coming in.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
They won't even open the door to this building to members of Congress.
The possible executive order abolishing the Department of Education would be fulfilling Trump's campaign promises to shrink the size of the federal government and return education decisions to the states. But Democratic lawmakers fear dismantling the department would be devastating to students across the country and say that legally the power to abolish the department rests with Congress and not the president. Joining me now is Nicole Neily, the president and founder of Parenting Defending Education. Ms. Neily, good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Nicole, Democratic Representative Maxwell Frost was one of those who tried to gain access, and he later posted this on X. They're blocking members of Congress from entering the Department of Education. Elon is allowed in and not the people. Illegal. Is Frost correct in saying that denying them entry was illegal? And why are Musk and his Doge team getting access when members of Congress can't?
You know, I have no insight into Elon's operations, but I am, glad that finally Congress is paying attention to the Department of Education, period. We just watched the NAEP scores come out. The bottom fell out yet again of student achievement in this country. I mean, we have so many children that cannot read or do math at grade level. Last session, the Senate only held one hearing. It was the last hearing they had on education overall. The Senate Help Committee didn't care to talk about education whatsoever. And so the fact that they actually care where the building is now, I think, is a terrific change of pace. But the fact is that the department has not done a very good job over the past several decades it's been in existence. And so if the president signing an executive order is going to focus people's attention on what the children of this country need, I say so much the better.
You know, Ms. Neily, I'm not going to say that you're right, but I will tell you there was a discussion in the newsroom. How many members of Congress actually knew where that building was before this photo op moment appeared? But I do want to ask you, though, Representative Latifah Simmons was one of the most outspoken members of Congress at the protest. Here's what she had to say.
I think it should be clear to parents in the United States, if you want to advocate on behalf of your children, you are not allowed to come into this building where you pay taxes. Parents who have children who are disabled, access is being blocked. You voted for members of Congress to advocate on behalf of your children with disabilities.
Ms. Neily, is all of this a distraction, or do you think she has a point that denying access to the Department of Education and possibly dismantling it could make it difficult for parents to advocate for their children, particularly those maybe with special needs?
So I actually testified before the House Education Committee on Wednesday, and most of those members were not in attendance. And so for them to go and do a photo stunt outside of the building, I think is a little bit shameful because it shows where their priorities are. Their priorities are with re-election. It's not actually with addressing student achievement in this country. And so, no, I mean, I think, does getting into the building, does that make a difference? As of right now, I believe there are only 20 political appointees there. For the most part, these are just line bureaucrats that have been there. So these are non-political people. These are people who deal with incoming inquiries from families all the time. But I run a parent organization that was labeled, a domestic, we were called domestic terrorists by the Biden administration. We were held at arm's length. And actually, we had a lawsuit against the Biden administration because they created a National Parent and Family Engagement Council. And they didn't do so. They violated the Federal Advisory Committee Act. And they didn't do so through an act of Congress, through proper notice and comment, or through having intellectual diversity on it. They had a rubber stamp committee. And so if this Department of Education is concerned with actual parent engagement, again, I think it's good because there has not been such a thing in the past. And
Mr. Trump has also sounded off, firing back at those protesters on Friday.
Oh, I see the same ones. I see Maxine Waters, a lowlife. I see, all these people. They don't love our country. They don't love our country. We want great education. So they rank 40 countries in education. We're ranked dead last. Dead last.
Now, I'm not sure that the United States is dead last, but we're definitely low. Like you pointed out, students are struggling with reading, writing, and arithmetic. What is the state of the American education system, and does Mr. Trump have a point that something needs to be done?
We have been spending money hand over fist for the past 40 years that this department has been in existence. In the meantime, proficiency levels have dropped. Frankly, you know, the Department of Education doesn't provide a huge amount of money to local school districts. What they do is they collect taxpayer dollars from everywhere, send it to Washington, skim money off the top, and then send it back to states and localities with a bunch of strings attached to it. And so if we are able to cut out the middleman and then also eliminate some of the duplication. I mean, why do we have two offices for civil rights in both the Department of Education and the Department of Justice? I think there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse that's been taking place. We as a country in the wake of COVID dumped $189 billion into our education system. And that didn't affect student achievement numbers whatsoever. We spend a huge amount on per pupil spending. And again, children are not doing well. Children are not thriving. And so I think it's time for a significant course correction, be that block grants back to the states or be that something else. The current status quo is absolutely not working. It's failing our children before our eyes.
And Ms. Neily, I think that's what the bottom line is right there. The current status quo, I think everyone can agree, is simply not working, and we see that evidenced with our own children. Linda McMahon is Trump's pick for education secretary. Now, her confirmation hearing is set for Thursday, but her tenure may be short-lived, according to the president.
I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. And what I want to do is let the states run schools.
States running schools. Do you think abolishing the Department of Education would improve school choice? And what would happen if Secretary McMahon and her department actually get dismantled?
I think many people forget that the Department of Education was only created in 1979. And so we as a country got along perfectly fine without having this federal role in the past. We won back-to-back world wars without having a federal Department of Education. And since its inception, it has frankly just become a conduit for interest groups and teachers unions to get their priorities advanced rather than what families need and what students need. So I don't think it would be a bad thing necessarily.
And Ms. Neily, I'll give you the last word on this. I just want to ask you, Representative Bobby Scott was one of those Democrats protesting on Friday, proposing a long-shot idea to stop Mr. Trump's plans.
And if we can get 3 Republicans to join us on the committee, we can stop everything they want to do. And if it gets out of committee, we need 3 Republicans in the United States to join us to block what they want to do in abolishing the Department of Education.
And again, Ms. Neily, if the idea is to get 3 Republicans to join you to continue the status quo, I think that plea is probably going to fall on deaf ears. But do you think the Democrats will be able to pull 3 members of the GOP to their side if there is a strategic change?
I mean, looking at how the House Republican caucus is right now, I think if you have 3 Republicans, you have 6 opinions. And so I think, you know, it's anybody's game at this point. So I'm not good at political prognostications, but, you know, I think it's who knows?
Well, Ms. Neily, can I just tell you how much I appreciate your fire and your passion on the behalf of students and children who continue to suffer while everyone else continues to wring their hands and do nothing to actually help students in the classroom. Nicole Neily, the president and founder at Parents Defending Education, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.